He's standing up there. I can see him standing there looking at all these cups, thinking which end, and he said he was a carpenter.
Right.
And he goes for that wooden cup, and I love that old night. Don't you just love that old night? You've chosen wisely.
I've chosen wisely. Yeah, he's got the old voice. He's at least 500 years old because he's been drinking from he's been guarding it and has eternal life. And then at the end, it's all falling down. You see him waving through the. Man,
he was so glad. I get to die. I'm so old. I'm tired of this.
Did you ever like have to go through that where I want to live forever, I'm invincible, that kind of thing? Because it's like people have been chasing the fountain of youth for forever.
I don't think so.
I feel like I'm not even
That's
old.
like, even with all the aches and pains of being in your 60s, I wouldn't go back to my 20s or 30s or 40s. I would not go back at all.
I remember my mom telling me that. I was in high school, and she was like, I guess she was in her 40s, and unequivocally she was like, absolutely not. I don't want to go back to that. I like what I'm doing right now. I feel like I guess in Christ, that's part of the joy of aging, is you recognize, no, this is not supposed to be forever.
And and I'm not an expert of any kind on marriage or kids or anything like that, but I want to tell you, if you will guard and take care of your marriage through those years of, you're rearing kids and you're going to ball games and you're doing this, that, and the other, you get to the point, I feel like Deb and I are at the point where, I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it.
Okay.
We're living our best life now.
Okay.
I mean, we just enjoy each other and we enjoy what we're doing.
That's beautiful.
That's why we love being here. We love doing this.
Yeah.
We love that we have no kids in the house.
Yeah, you've mentioned that.
And all these
before.
things, I'm going to cry. My baby's about to leave. And I said, hey, you'll get it beyond it. I promise you.
Do you remember that old commercial where it's the mother and father, they're in the driveway, they're saying bye to their son as he leaves for college?
Yes.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
And then, well, where's mom? Well, she's upstairs getting used to the idea. I think this is where we'll put the hot tub, Jerry. Like measuring where to put it in.
Yeah.
So that's how it's been for you guys.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, well, it's going to be a great guest room. You're going to have like your third office for your extra books, that sort of thing. So you guys heard it here first.
I need one.
Heard it here first today.
Yeah.
The title of Pastor Mac's next book, Living Your Best Life Now.
No.
That's exactly what he's going to take us to.
No. I shouldn't have used that because but I'm looking at Mark. I've got to go preach today, and I'm looking at Mark where I'm going to preach from.
Oh.
I got to get over.
Where are you going today? You got your tie on.
Yeah, I'm preaching an in-town senior adult revival. I'm officially
I'm
old.
excited about that.
I've been invited to preach my first.
You're not old. You're the youngest person there.
No, I doubt that. But I will. I'm doing my first senior adult revival.
This is the first one.
Yeah.
So how do you?
I've had them before,
Yeah.
but I've never been invited to speak at one. Unless Phil Waldrop I've spoken for him a number of times, like up in Pigeon Forge, and that's a lot of seniors and but there are other people that come to those as well. But
Senior adult revival. That sounds fun. I hope they probably won't live stream it, right? None of the senior adults are even gonna be able to find it probably. Well, I hope that goes well. Where are you going to? You said Mark. You're going to Mark for that one.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then there's always that. You were the first one that really showed me that text, and I always forget what psalm it's in. Where when people age, the children of God are like a strong tree. They're ever full of sap and green. It's one of the psalms. I keep forgetting
They're
which
sappy.
psalm.
They're sappy. we old folks, we're sappy.
Oh man. So how you feeling? Is your back doing okay?
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if you
doing
told
well.
People.
It's never going to be like it was when I was 25, but I had a great surgery and a great outcome.
Yeah, everything went well. Well, that's good. I mean, you seem like you got good energy, And,
I do.
I had
feel like I do.
Yeah, I mean, you really seem like you do. Yesterday when I was, first of all, man, the parent-child dedication is always so special.
Uh-huh.
That's just so, and I feel so privileged. I get to just, stand up there and get to see the families. It's just, and I always get weepy because I see all the people. I know that some people that like struggled with infertility, and then they're up there
Yeah.
and different stories. And but anyway, I ended up sitting in a different. I usually sit in the spot. I guess it's a little bit to the left. You know, I sit in the spot where there's that big golden plaque. You know, Kirkwood Bullis's normal seat. Don't sit here, please. But I didn't sit there yesterday. I decided to move. So I was sitting in a different spot because my wife was homesick. And it was really interesting. I noticed it was just the energy. Like for some reason, I was watching you move back and forth. I was just like, wow, like he's just preaching with a lot of fire today. And then also I was like, this room is really full. I was sitting in the second service.
Yeah.
I was like,
it was
wow.
a great crowd at the early one, I thought, and then second service was, really full.
It was just a good day. I think a lot of it was we had a lot of people visiting to come see the parent-child dedication, which is great. I mean, you had some of the grandparents stand up.
Yeah.
That to me always ministers to me,
Yeah.
the legacy of faith.
Yeah. And I hope they did. I do that at the first one. I should stop and do it at every one of them, but, I just tell them when we get to your child, you stand up. That's your child's
Well, maybe next time we should
grandchild.
just have all of the grandparents stand up at the end, like for
That's
all
a
of them.
good idea.
And
That's
okay.
why we pay you
Then
the
we-
big bucks. Yeah.
So, and at one note, have you met Miss Beebe? Because she was her name's Barbara Bauer. I can't remember her last name, but everyone calls her Miss Beebe because she's Brooke's grandmother.
Yes.
So she was one of the great grandparents that was there yesterday when.
I talked to a son yesterday, and he was calling her BB. That's what our grandkids called my mother.
Oh,
was
got it.
BB. And yet, she is the sweetest lady.
Oh yeah, Miss Beebe.
Yeah.
She's incredible. You know what? And shout out to Miss Beebe if you're watching this. She is one of the best texters.
Is that right?
And in that generation, it's amazing.
Well,
she will get back to me.
she is so sweet. Her husband was a pastor, and
That's
they
right,
moved
that's right.
here, and he passed away right as they moved here. But he was like, I forget what his age was, but I talked to him on the phone and said, "Hey, we really want y'all to come and be a part."
Of course,
he was a
yeah.
real encouragement. So
There's a lot. I've seen that a lot. I got to meet a fairly new family yesterday, and I'm not going to remember their last name, but it was Brian and Misty, and he's worked in the ministry as well. He'd gotten an MDiv from Southwestern, same as you. I'll have to find. We can talk about that later. I'll have to find that name.
I know
They were
who you're
very
talking
kind.
about. He'd had back trouble too.
Right, he was walking with a cane.
Yeah, he had the exact same surgery
Get
I had.
out, really?
The exact same surgery. Yeah.
Oh, so he
Yeah,
kind of talked you
yeah.
through it.
Yeah, they came in and we talked to him yesterday, Deb and I, and he was just sharing, and I said, well, hey, I've just had, and he said, I know. He said, we've been coming for, I forget how long. But anyway, I
it's
think
like
they're
6
they're
months or
they're planning, they've already signed up for the new members
Yeah,
class.
Discover Valleydale. I guess we should say that. Like, if you've been visiting with us, there's a Discover Valleydale class next Sunday. It's on the 21st. You can still sign up for that. It's that's a great way to learn more about the church. If you're thinking about joining, you're not required to join just because you go to the class. Well, that'd be really something.
Yeah, we've had folks go to the class and say, "Psst, we're out of here.
We're out. We're done.
We don't
with
like
this.
this."
We're down with it. We're done with this. Yeah, I don't. Dave's got some fun stories there, but Dave and Pastor Jeff do a great job with that. And shout out to Pastor Jeff, who's actually taken a break this week.
He's on vacation.
He actually took a vacation.
That's why they've already lined up out there we're throwing a big party this week.
That's exactly right.
Have you confirmed it?
We've
Do you know that he's left?
He's left, which is why I talked to Lacey, and we've just canceled all the meetings for the week.
Yeah.
No meetings.
Yeah, just a big party.
Just a big old party. Pastor's brought in.
Spending money.
There's a Mack truck that just, well, no pun intended, but there's a Mack truck that just backed in. It's all Krispy Kremes.
Yeah.
And so Pastor, he's actually moved his office out there. And each time he finishes a box of Krispy Kremes, he gets to move more books into it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that warehouse that you thought was a warehouse is really going to be my new office. We're lining it with bookshelves.
I said that yesterday.
Did you really?
Because yesterday, it's right now, so we're putting in the storage unit, more on that in a second, but there's this new storage building that's going in. They've almost got the slab done. And I was standing with Josh Pike yesterday. I said, "Wow, Pastor's executive parking spot is looking really good, like a executive
nice.
parking garage." No, that's
Pull in out of the
actually.
rain.
Well, that's the thing is that because John Claxton asked me yesterday, "What's going on back there?" And I was like, "Well, if you would have come to the business meeting, you would already know." But we've got we've had this on the books for like 4 years or something.
No, longer than that.
Yeah, the money has been set aside for us
years.
for us to build this storage building, and for whatever reason, it's just been in development hell for forever. We couldn't get the permit, we couldn't get it done, couldn't get it. Well, finally, Denny Carlisle, who's also paid the big bucks, has got this thing going.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, and so finally we're going to have the storage that this building needs, and maybe we'll be able to use the stairwells again.
Yeah,
Instead of
everything is
weaving back
tucked
and
away
forth.
in the stairwells. We're gonna clean all that out. So it looks nice, and
Yeah, actually look
we got a place
presentable.
to put stuff. Easy, roll everything out right into there. It's the Jeff McGookin He Shed.
Shed?
He Shed.
Oh, okay.
It's a he shed.
We've already got. So Jeff never watches this, so I guess we can keep talking about him. We're working on a plaque that we're going to put up. I said it was going to be a temporary plaque that they'll put up, but Pastor has said no, it's not going to be temporary.
I wanted it in neon lights.
Well, we're going to do it as one of those engraved cornerstones. McGookin He Shed.
Yeah.
2024. So there's no way that he could remove it unless he gets a sandblaster out there.
That's right.
But that'll be his legacy. More storage here at the church. What more could you ask for, Pastor Jeff? Enjoy your vacation. We should probably talk a little bit more about the message yesterday. Very helpful message from Ephesians chapter 3.
Well, I was caught in a dilemma. I knew we had all of this coming with all of the the babies that
it was a big day. We had a lot
dedicated.
in here. Yeah.
And I knew I was going to have to shorten this up, so I just decided I can't do all of this
There's
passage.
so much there.
So I'm just going to talk about basically the posture of prayer, which is what 14 and 15 really talks about.
Well, and I loved what you did there, and we're going to jump right into it. Except I forgot to shout out all of the children's choir directors for
they
the
did.
handbells yesterday.
Yeah.
It was just excellent.
It really, those kids did a fabulous job.
They
I thought
were
it would just
focused.
be a bunch of, bless their hearts, they're trying. They didn't miss a beat.
They didn't. Amanda, I know Amanda and Michaela and Lindsay Cruz, like they worked and worked and worked to get that right. Miss Tommy gave them these big posters so they could kind of follow the bouncing ball,
Yeah.
So that was just really a delight. So maybe they'll do that for us again next year too. That was cool. So anyway, the posture of prayer though, yeah, I like the way that you broke it down. I had a couple notes. The one that stuck out to me was because we've talked about this a lot in the Baptist church, the physical posture of worship. People, especially in days gone by,
Right.
the posture of worship period was, well, you better just stand stock still, and you don't need to be moving around, But now, in recent years, especially with contemporary music, there seems to be this thing where, if you're a true believer, you should be more physical and you should raise your hands to do this or that. Look, it even says in Scripture we're supposed to bow the knee. And you gave, I thought, what was really a fresh and healthy perspective on that, coming from Paul. Because he wasn't even necessarily saying that this is a physical bow.
No, he was just saying, it was just a spiritual impetus on his part. I've got to get on my knees. I've just got to kneel. And he did it. But the Jews did not do that.
Right,
That's not the way
different.
they prayed. Yes. Now you find Ezra in Ezra 9 on his knees. You find Daniel on his knees. You find Jesus on his face in the garden.
Those were unique times.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. And it was very different for the Jew when they pray. It's much like it is today if you go to the Western Wall in Jerusalem and you see the Orthodox going there. It's a ritual. I mean, everything about it is a ritual. They go in and it's like, man, we're suiting up, and they put the phylacteries on and everything, and they stand there. Now they will sit. Oftentimes you'll find them sitting as well.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. Like, so they don't stand the whole time?
Well, some do. Usually it depends on how long they've been there.
Okay.
And they always go over to the ark which is a cabinet where they keep copies of the Torah.
The scriptures,
Some are in scroll form, others are just in book form, and they are praying the scriptures.
Of course.
And
That's something that's interesting with older forms of worship in the Judeo-Christian tradition. A lot of it is done standing the whole time. You know, as I've said many times before, I've had some experiences with the Orthodox Church, and there are no chairs. They have a line of pews around the edge of the room, which is basically for
Older
you know,
folks.
like
or mothers with children.
that's
or something.
exactly right. So
Yeah.
like it's convenient, but you're expected to stand
Yeah.
at attention the whole time.
Yeah.
So, but either way, like, you helped us contextualize thinking like, all right, Jewish worship, like this is a radical thing again that Paul is saying. Because Jewish worship, you talk, and because is it true that they pray usually like with their eyes lifted up and hands open? Was that a thing?
Yeah, they'll either stand like this at the wall, or they'll have like I said, a copy of the Torah in the hand. Yes, standing.
Is there still because I know so little about this, is there still like a synagogue kind of practice in, I guess, I would want to research some of that. Like, what does that look like when they show up?
If you go down, if you're at the western wall and you go down to it, it's divided. The women have a
Right.
section over here.
Yes.
And the men are over this way. But when you go over this way, they have uncovered part of a synagogue
Oh, wow.
over this way that's underground.
Wow.
Now, it's still on the same level, but you go into what's covered up above, you know. And so they're in there. And I usually take the men down and go in there. You have to put a yarmulke or a hat on, and you go into that synagogue, basically, in that.
So they'll let the
area.
Gentiles in
Oh,
as long as
yeah,
you put
yeah,
on a head
yeah.
covering? Oh,
Now,
that's
they
cool.
look at you like, well, what are you doing in here? You know. And they don't like to have anything to do. They don't want to discuss. They don't want to talk to you. They're not interested in. They're set on doing what they're doing.
So you talked about the physical posture of worship, which, you know, I admit that's of great interest to me, just thinking about the methodology of how we worship here in the Baptist Church. But you also talked about the spiritual posture. We should probably touch on that
Yeah.
a little bit.
When he calls God Father.
Now that is a really big deal, and again, this message really spoke to me. I don't know why, but you kept grabbing me with different things, and that was another one of them. That in the Old Testament, I didn't realize how many times God was called a father in the Old Testament.
It's about 145
So I thought it
times.
was a lot fewer than that.
Yeah.
But you talked about the difference in the sort of the personal and the public reference. Talk us back through that again.
In the Old Testament, it's always a national reference.
That's right, the national.
Yeah, he is the father of Israel. He is the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Sometimes, you know, he's the father of Ephraim. You know, in that sense, and it's always a national.
Yeah, or the whole tribe, is
Yeah.
there. Well, and
Which in that tribe would represent, it's just another way of speaking of the whole of the nation.
I'm trying to remember if I'm remembering this right, but then like that was one of the things that they did not understand, that God could, the relationship between the Father and then the Son, like that they always saw God as the Father of Israel as a nation. They didn't understand God as the Father of the Son, Jesus Christ, which like prevented the Jews from fully understanding.
You know, David did in some of his Psalms, he caught, I don't know if he completely, he's writing under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, and I don't think they got into a trance thing at all. It's the use of personality. But he gives indication of some of that. So when Jesus comes, it is a very
Yeah, it's just so
unheard
clear.
of.
Well, it's clear to us now,
Yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't clear at the time.
And so in the four Gospels, about 60 times he's called, and it's almost always personal.
And that was a great point that you made about how you think about, okay, so you've got 170 times in all of the Old Testament.
145.
Thank you, 145 in
Yeah.
all of the Old Testament. You think about like how much of your Bible is
Yeah.
Old Testament versus then the 60 times in the Gospels,
Yeah.
which I could probably pinch
Yeah, you
this
can.
place in my Bible
Yeah.
where the
There you
Gospels
go.
are.
I was going to do that.
It's just, I mean, it's even less than this. It's
Yeah.
even less than this. 60 times in just the Gospels. So that's really interesting. Again, you're just helping us understand how Christ coming really did change everything about how we understand.
And this was really Paul's posture in the midst of prayer. Physically, he was on his knees. Spiritually, he knew God as Father. And then I got to the relational part of what it means for him to be, what it means for us relationally, not just to him, but to one another.
Well, and that was the strongest application point, because it's like this is who we have to be as a church.
Right.
Like, this is what we're called to. And that was also really encouraging, because there are so many good examples of how people are ministering to one another in the church right now.
Listen, Debbie made a comment to me sometime yesterday. She said, Frank Catalano is just pretty much at home. He's gotten out of. We went by, but there was a nurse in there, and they were getting him in the bed, and so we didn't stay. But anyway, there are guys out of his Sunday school class, who go over and sit with him during church, so she can come to church.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So there's so many things. I know that Jim and Maria are coming home tomorrow, and
are they going to fly after all?
Yes,
Okay.
they have to. The doctor said there's just no way she can make the trip in an ambulance. They're going to have to fly her home. Wow. So,
but yeah, the people have been ministering to them as well.
Oh, good night. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've really been praying for them, and I assume their life group's going to go visit them once they get back.
Listen, everybody is.
Because she's got more surgery coming up, right?
She does. They're taking her straight to a rehab center.
Okay.
And then in like a week or so, they're taking her in for the surgery on her shoulder, and then back to the rehab center, and then she'll go home. Yeah.
That is so much.
If it works out like, it always changes.
There's a lot of moving parts there. Well, just continue to pray for the Brandt family.
Yeah.
Anybody, even if you don't know them, just lift them up in prayer. That's just a difficult season that they're going through. And again, the Lord mysteriously will allow things like that and give the church an opportunity to be the church.
And this is his story to tell, but the lady who hit them, they've called and said, listen, we want you to know, we know it's an accident, and we have no hard feelings, and we're praying for you, and you go on and live your life, and don't feel like you need to be harsh on yourself for this or whatever. It must have been horrifying to her. Wouldn't it be horrifying to hit somebody?
Oh, of course.
You always think of the person that's hit, but I do think of the person that hit them, and how horrible they must feel about that.
That's just a horrible accident.
Yeah. But what a great witness.
Of course.
What an incredible witness for them to have.
Of course. Well, and we ask that, we have that gut check question all the time. What would you sacrifice? Like, would you sacrifice some of your personal health for someone's eternal joy?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do that? Well, I hope that we would be willing to do that.
Well, Jesus Christ sure did it for us.
He sure did it for us.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's the way we open this thing, just talking about how all of this is temporary. We're encased in these jars of clay. Someday we'll have renewed bodies.
Yeah. That sounds like a good name for a singing group.
Renewed bodies?
No, jars of clay.
Oh, okay. That's. Yeah, I feel like maybe we should move forward with that, Pastor. So, guys, well, we're going to have to close up shop early today because Pastor's got to get to work on his next book.
And you've got to lead a staff meeting.
And I've got to. That's true. I do have to lead the staff.
That would be worth getting in your car and coming down here to this church to see this morning.
Pastor Kirkwood leading a staff meeting. That's going to be interesting.
Wow.
Again, I'm going to have to keep it short because I got to get to work crafting my new singing group, Jars of Clay. We've enjoyed being with you today. Say goodbye, Pastor.
Goodbye, Pastor. That leg doesn't go up as high as it used to.
He's knocking over water bottles. He's struggling this morning. It's okay.
Oh, it's bad to start the